I'm going to tell you why the Chicago Cubs can overcome the Shota Imanaga injury coming up next.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Sam Olbert. I'm a lifelong fan, taking my passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making Locked On Cubs your first listen today in the best way. You can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like the video, and give us a comment below. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Fun episode for you today. As you can see, I'm solo. Matt and I, we flip-flop the schedule. He'll be back Tuesday for Wednesday. I'm solo Monday for Tuesday. And when I'm solo, the Cubs win unless it's a watch-along. We're going to talk a lot about Dansby Swanson's resurgence. We're going to talk all about this Cubs-Giants victory and another offensive eruption from the best offense in the game. But we do have to start with some bad news, the big news of the day. But the expected news of the day was that Cubs ace Shota Imanaga has been placed on the 15-day IL. Gavin Hollowell was called up, but that's just because Imanaga's spot's not due until Saturday. So why would the Cubs make a call up for a starter when they could just add an extra arm? And Gavin Hollowell actually helped save some arms today and finish the game for the Cubs in a blowout victory, which we'll get to, like I said, later on. But we really didn't, to be honest with you, we really didn't get a huge update on Shota. All we found out was that he is going to the IL. Craig Counsell said that he actually felt good today. And for some reason, and I can't really figure out why, I would assume that the Chicago Cubs and Shota Imanaga could get an appointment. They waited until later in the day to do imaging. So by the time the game started, or by the time Craig and Jed met the media, they did not have a definitive update. The doctor hadn't reviewed the imaging. So we don't know yet. I feel fairly comfortable with this one and doing some speculation just because we saw a similar injury with Justin Steele last year. And I am planning on being out, without Shota for about a month. That's what I'm planning on. And if it's longer, it's longer. I would be pleasantly surprised. I would go as far as to say pleasantly shocked if it were any less than a month. I tweeted out earlier today because people were asking me update. I just said, assume he's going to the IL. I use that phrase as well. Pleasantly shocked if he wasn't going to the IL. And when they report a hamstring strain and a guy limps off, 99.9% of the time it's going to be an IL trip. So that's really the update. I think we'll know a lot more tomorrow on the grade, the severity, and the time frame. I think what makes this a little bit tricky is that Shota doesn't, he's never had anything like this before. So I don't think he knows how to, say, well, hey, it felt like this last time. It's going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks. He's never had a lower body, a soft tissue injury like that. So I would expect the Cubs to be cautious. The question is A, what's next? And B, can the Cubs overcome this? This is not a small deal. My dad called me on Sunday after this happened, and he was, to use his words, he was devastated. He was devastated. I had to calm him down a little bit because this team's really good. But look, like we always sit here and, we toe the line. Do you want to overreact? I don't want to panic, whatever. Look, the bottom line is the best two starters on the Cubs are out. One's out for the season, and one's out for, we'll see, probably around a month, hopefully, and not longer. That's really significant, right? You take the two best starters on every team. Where would the Brewers be without Freddie Peralta? You know what I mean? Where would the Reds be without Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo? It's a significant story. But This team, and they proved it again on Monday night, feels like they have the weapons, feels like they have the offense, feels like they have the character, feels like they have the energy, the urgency this year to survive this absence. And unlike the Steele injury, it's coming at a time where in about a week, the schedule is going to soften up dramatically. You're going to see the White Sox. You're going to see the Marlins twice. You're going to see the Reds a bunch, which is the Reds are a fine team, but it's not like facing the guys we're facing now. I think Colorado at some point. So, that's a positive in itself. But I think, I think the big story is with the way PCA is hitting. You have a guy like Kyle Tucker, the way Matthew Boyd's throwing, the way Colin Ray's throwing, the way Jamo's throwing. Ben Brown seems up for the challenge. The bullpen's been much steadier lately. Plus the schedule, I think the Cubs are going to be okay with this one. The key is going to be get Shota Imanaga back. And when you do, make sure he is 1,000% healthy. I don't want to hear, oh, well, he was favoring his hamstring and that led to X, Y, and Z. That's really the key, because if you want to be a glass half full guy, which of course I always am, Imanaga, the goal is for him to be pitching big games in the middle of October, right? This will allow him to do that because it'll take his innings away. He's not going to be going, it would have been really tough, I think, for him to throw like 225, 230 innings, including the postseason. Now he doesn't have to worry about that. He might be a little bit more fresh. The Cubs always want to get Imanaga extra rest. Well, now he's going to get plenty. So, that's the glass half full take of this. And then, of course, the other side is what's next. That's what everybody wants to know. And I'm always amazed at how fast I have a very hard time just moving on to what's next. I like to okay, Imanaga's out. I need a second on that. Okay, well, what's next? What's next? What's next? Well, Cubs pitch, Imanaga's spot comes up Saturday. The obvious choice would be to bring up Cade Horton. And, Cade Horton's thrown the ball really well. His ERA is really low. His FIP, his expected ERA is a little bit higher than that. We'll get into that. If the Cubs actually call him up, we'll get into his details. But he's thrown the ball well. And I think for his last 3-4 starts, he's really proven that he can command the zone. You have Chris Flexen as well as the other option. The argument against bringing up Cade Horton on Saturday would be, well, it's a tough opponent in the Mets. It's on the road. And, maybe we go Flexen for Saturday and then give Cade an easy landing in a different game against the Sox or something like that. My take on that is if he's ready to pitch him on Saturday. I really don't subscribe much to that. I just don't. There's good lineups. And Craig even said this, every major league lineup has its challenges. If you don't execute, you're probably going to get hit. Why not give him a tough landing, see how he responds? I don't think he's the type of kid that is going to be like, oh, man, I gave up 5 runs to the Mets. Now my confidence is doomed. I mean, this is baseball. You're an elite prospect, arguably along with Ballesteros, the Cubs' top prospect. And, you're going to have moments. I mean, look at Matt Shaw. Matt Shaw came up. We're going to talk about him a little bit later, but he came up, he struggled, he went back down, and, he's hitting now, and he'll come back up. I know the mental game is such a huge part of baseball, and I'm not trying to disrespect that, but if you want to bring up Cade Horton and you feel like he's ready to pitch, I don't think the opponent should make that decision. So we'll see. I think Cade's going to get every opportunity, just like Matt Shaw did, to hold down the fort while Shota is out. If it doesn't go well, you have a guy like Flexen. The key is you can't have any more injuries, right? Boyd's a guy that you would have loved to get 130 plus innings from. Now you need it. You need Jamo to be healthy. Now you have to lean on Ben Brown. Jordan Wicks hasn't thrown the ball well. Assad's hurt. At some point, I think the Cubs will explore a big trade, but they have some time right now. You want to wait out the market a little bit. And if they do a trade or an external addition, I would expect it to be one of a much smaller variety, and just bringing in a guy that could just, make a spot start or two if you don't like the way it's going with Cade or you have another injury. So, the Cubs' depth's being tested. There's no question about it. And, I think it stinks that Shota's hurt. It's really bad luck that we lost Steele and Shota in a season where we're having a renaissance offensively. But I hope you guys can understand my tone and sense my tone. I still believe. I really do. I still believe that they're going to be all right with this. It's not like it's a Steele situation where he's done for the year. Get him healthy. Hopefully we get a good update on Tuesday and we get a timeline and keep hitting and keep doing the little things well. And And hopefully, Shota will be back in no time. The biggest reason why I'm confident that the Chicago Cubs can overcome this absence is because right now they have the best offense in baseball, and they proved it again on Monday night. We're going to talk about that coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Folks, I cannot tell you, as somebody that lives alone and is not much of a cook, you lose track of how much you're spending on delivery services and dining out. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how bad it was getting. Now I budget smarter and I save more. Instead of just juggling multiple apps too, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. We are back here on Locked On Cubs, and it was another very fun day at the friendly confines Monday night as the Chicago Cubs defeated the San Francisco Giants by a score of 9-2. They now have an identical record with the Giants at 22-14. And, whenever I look at the box score, I can't stand how deceptive that 10-7 home record looks, because they count those 2 games in Japan as home games. The Cubs are really 10-5 at the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. And this is one of those games I could talk for an hour about it. I don't know where to start. I guess I'd like to start with Matthew Boyd, because we just talked about Shota Imanaga and his, his injury. And one of the reasons you feel really good that you can get through it is Matthew Boyd has been excellent. 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned, 7 Ks. He's 3-2 with a 2.75, and he has faced a gauntlet. You think the Cubs' schedule's been tough, because it has been. Here are the teams that Matt Boyd has had to face so far. At Arizona, versus San Diego, at LA Dodgers, at San Diego, versus LA Dodgers, at Pittsburgh, and then today against the San Francisco Giants. So he's been tested. He's thrown the ball really well. The only concern is Matthew Boyd was brought here to supplement the rotation, to be I think I talked about it once on a solo episode. You lose track. But I talked about how he could easily be the 3rd best guy in this rotation. And I think that's kind of what he was brought here to do. No disrespect to J-Mo, who's been very solid in his own right. And to be honest, Matthew Boyd, outside of Colin Ray, has probably been the Cubs' most consistent pitcher so far. And that's not surprising. It's not surprising at all. He was awesome down the stretch last year. The Cubs really saw something in him. And, he did it in the postseason, which is what I think got him that contract. And he's been really good. Now you just got to be careful, right? He's got such a long list of injuries and injury history, and you just can't afford to lose him. I wouldn't mind seeing him get an extra day after a close to 100 pitch outing. I think he threw right around 100. I have it right in front of me, 94. I'd love to see them just, because at some point Matt Boyd's going to need a breather. He's not going to be able to go, every 5th day, 94, 95 pitches with his track record, but the Cubs are going to need him to pick up the slack now until, Shota comes back, you know what I mean? Or the Cubs make a move. So outstanding work by him. I thought he was a little bit wild early, hung a changeup that got punished for a 2-run homer, but his last couple innings were excellent. And it was overall just a very solid outing again from Matthew Boyd. Offensively, I'm gonna single out Dansby in a bit, so I'm gonna skip him for now. Ian Happ with a big 2-run home run. Ian Happ, Bleacher Nation had a beautiful piece on him today that I've been thinking and kind of hinting at on this show for a bit. This lineup, having Kyle Tucker in there and having PCA hitting, has just allowed Ian Happ to be Ian Happ quietly. We talk about so much about how having Kyle Tucker in the lineup, how much it's helped Seiya. It's helped Ian Happ too, because Ian is in that tier. Ian's a very good baseball player. He's a very nice baseball player. You want him on your team. He's just not at that level of, hey, that's a superstar right there. Hey, that guy can carry us for 3-4 months. And so, he goes through his ebbs and flows. And when you don't have a guy like a Tucker, and at this point with the way PCA is hitting, and Carson Kelly, I keep forgetting to mention him. I mean, that's a story in itself. But, the Tucker thing is obviously what feels like what'll last the whole year. It allows Ian to just kind of, all right, Ian's been quiet, but nobody, including myself, I remember last year in May, I was, hey, Ian needs a break. He needs a couple days off. He's been whatever, because it stood out so much. It doesn't stick out as much right now because he doesn't have to be the guy. And I know it's not basketball, but that still matters. You could just fit in. You could take your time, make adjustments. I mean, Ian right now hitting 287 with a 370 on base. The slug, he finally hit a homer today, his third one. Hasn't come yet in the air, but I mean, his at-bats, he's been so steady and so solid. He's really been so Ian, but you just get a really good chance to appreciate it a little bit more when you have the guys around him that are hitting the way that they are. Carson Kelly hit another homer today. I don't know what else to say on this. If you look at his baseball savant pages, he's essentially the best non-Aaron Judge hitter in baseball, minimum however many appearances you want to say. And it's like, look, obviously it's not going to keep up at this rate, but what rate is it going to keep up at? Because the numbers are telling you, as my voice cracks, the numbers are telling you that it's not fluky. The numbers are telling you that he's swinging at the right pitches. He's laying off the right pitches. He's hitting the ball hard. He's making good contact. I mean, it's a really, really big story. Matt and I talked, I don't remember if we talked on or off the air about this. It was the bold prediction episode. And we were both talking about, like, we were both thinking about saying, and I know we didn't actually say it for the bold prediction, so it must have been off the air, but it was like, one thing that feels like it could happen is like Carson Kelly just taking this job and running with it. But when we said that, it felt like we just didn't trust Miguel Amaya yet. But it's actually not that at all. And it was mostly defensive related. Like, hey, Kelly can control the run game. Amaya's been absolutely fine. But Kelly's ran away with it because he would run away with it if Johnny Bench was the other catcher right now with the way he's playing. So it's unbelievable to watch. And, I'm just going to continue to enjoy it while it's still here. Other big standouts. I thought, again, I know people are probably tired of hearing me talk about him. I thought PCA had a huge impact on the game without impacting the box score. He got on an error that led to 2 runs, and Matt Chapman, who's a phenomenal defensive third baseman, made that error because he was terrified of Pete Crow-Armstrong's speed. Then there was an error by Willie Adames at shortstop because he didn't realize that Pete was running. He saw Pete, the corner of his eye, going to second base and rushed the throw. Like, those are things you can't put on the box score. You can't put a value on that. It's just his speed. He's swinging literally at everything right now, and I think he needs to tone it down just a tad. But I'm not going to be the one that tells him that because it's working pretty good. So I thought he had a really big impact on the game today. Say had a 2-run single. Quiet night for Tucker. He was a victim of some bad calls. But whenever you can win a baseball game, you notice Seiya and Bush recently have cooled off a tad, the last 3-4 games, and the Cubs are still putting up really big run totals. I mean, this offense is relentless. Shout out to Gavin Hollowell. He did a nice job today after Caleb Thielbar. He finished the game, so the Cubs didn't have to use any high leverage guys. And Nicky Lopez. I think Nicky Lopez has earned some starts until Matt Shaw comes up. His at-bats today were pretty good outside of him showing bunt in a weird spot, man on second, no outs early in the game when he could just pull a ground ball to the right side. But he had a hit. He had an RBI walk, and most importantly, he made a couple really nice plays at third base, and that is what this Cubs team needs right now. If they're not going to get offense from that position, please give us regular major league quality defense. I don't think that's a tough ask, and Nicky Lopez provided that today. But to me, the big standout, the big star of the day, and the guy that deserves a lot of credit because a week ago at this time, we did an episode talking about his struggles, is Dansby Swanson, and we're going to talk about him after this. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices actually drop as game time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On, and as the Chicago Cubs host the San Francisco Giants this week, May 5th, 6th, and 7th, I can count on them to grab tickets that meet my needs. I love that I could preview my exact seat before purchasing. No bad surprises when you get to Wrigley Field, because you know there's tickets, folks. There's seats behind those pillars where if you go there, you can't really see any of the game action. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We are back here on Locked On Cubs, and Dansby Swanson. What a response to being moved down in the order and batting 8th. Since being moved down to the 8 hole, Dansby Swanson is 12 for 26. Almost a 500 batting average. He's slugging, he's hitting, and make no mistake, these blowout wins, there's always a key hit that opens up the floodgates. And with second and third, 2 outs after that error by Matt Chapman, and then a little bloop single by Nico, the big hit of this game was Dansby Swanson's broken bat base hit to left field that gave the Cubs a 4-2 lead, and they never looked back. Look, we'll never know. We'll never know when somebody gets moved down in the order, when somebody gets benched for a couple days and they come back strong. Was that just a coincidence? Was he due to get going? Would he have been doing this in the 5 hole? You never know. But when something like this happens, first of all, you have to give credit to Craig Counsell for getting out in front of it and doing it. And you have to give credit to the player, in this case, Dansby, for responding to it, because I don't think being moved down in the order is that big of a deal. Like, I really don't think that bothered Dansby too much. I mean, I have no idea, but look at who's on this team right now. Like, Dansby Swanson, with all due respect, when he was struggling like this, should not be hitting ahead of Carson Kelly, and he shouldn't be hitting ahead of Pete Crow-Armstrong. It was kind of an obvious move, but what I think it does is, in a way, it's like, I think a lot of players do better when they have a little chip on their shoulder, a little anger. Sure, it frustrates you a little bit. I'm not an 8 hitter. I don't want to be hitting 8. I'm, whatever. But I also think in the same way, but opposite, it also just takes some pressure off of you too. It's like, okay, I'm an 8 hitter on this team. You know what? This team's playing really good baseball. And the one thing I'll always give Dansby his credit for is he's just a win first guy. He really doesn't care how he's doing. Like, his body language typically doesn't ever change, only when the Cubs are struggling. He's a team first guy. And it's like, all right, I'm getting paid a lot of money, but I'm getting paid a lot of money mostly because I'm a great defensive player. I'm going to continue to do that, and I'm going to work on my bat. Things are going to come. I don't have to carry this team offensively. And let's be honest, when the Cubs signed Dansby Swanson, we knew he was not meant to carry this team offensively. He won a World Series with the Braves. He wasn't, one of the best hitters on that team, right? Dansby just has to be better consistently. He can't have stretches where he's 100, 180, 190 hitter. And Counsell talked about his streakiness and said, well, sometimes he's going to really struggle. Sometimes he's going to carry us. But, this stretch from him has been very encouraging. Today was a little bit more, he had the opposite field hit to right, but, he was pulling it. I still love when he's center to right center, if I'm being picky, and then pulling balls in the air. But, you look at his numbers now on the season after this week, and, he's hitting 232. Obviously, you'd like a little bit better than that. The bad numbers, the 276 on base, but he is slugging 444. And that's that number could stay. If we can get that on base from Dansby to like 300, and he's slugging 444, and his OPS is 744 with his defensive defense. I mean, we talked about that in the 9 to 9 minutes before the season started. I think I said I'd like to see that OPS at least around 750. That'd be 744. If he's going to play Gold Glove defense at short and have a 744 OPS, that's good enough, guys. That's good enough. And with the going rate for shortstops right now, Gold Glove shortstop defense and 744 OPS, you like it to be a little bit more consistent. You like it to be, a little bit more timely, but he's not far off now from where he needs to be in this week stretch. So credit to him, credit to responding like that. That's what a leader, a winner like Dansby Swanson should do. And I'm glad he's having a lot of success. And if it takes Locked On Cubs to do a show about your struggles, I'll do one tomorrow. If he goes 0 for 4, I'll say, what's going on with Dansby Swanson again? And if he goes 12 and 26, we could just do that cycle every time if that's what it takes. I want to close the show just talking a little bit about Matt Shaw. A lot of murmurs about, hey, when are the Cubs going to bring Shaw back? Is Matt Shaw ready? Matt Shaw's ready. Shaw's ready. Matt Shaw's been much better lately at a 4-hit day over the weekend. His overall AAA slash line now is 277, 424, which is a big number. And he's slugging 408. I'm not there yet. It's so funny because I'm like the biggest Matt Shaw guy. Like I didn't have him getting sent down in my preseason predictions. I thought he would kind of take this job and run with this. So it's going to sound like I'm changing my tone. I'm not. I'm a huge fan of Matt Shaw, and I've watched some of the ABs. I haven't watched all of them, so it's hard to get like a full take on this. But my take is just the Cubs are rolling right now. Don't rush it. Don't rush it. And Jed talked about this a little bit on Monday, kind of like, hey, everyone will know when it's time. He'll let you know with his bat. I mean, he didn't say that verbatim, but I don't think we're quite there yet. And I think Nicky Lopez deserves some starts at third. Right now, let's see where that goes. You got Birdie if he makes those plays. The Cubs are rolling right now, and you have to have that balance. It's the same thing about trading for a pitcher right away. You have to take advantage of the fact that you're playing really well, but sometimes taking advantage of playing well is, hey, we have the privilege, we've earned the right to wait on this for a bit. Let's and that's not to say, hey, let's sit back and get complacent with where we're at. It's just like, let's see Matt Shaw really start to put together a stretch of 100 mile an hour plus exit velos and a couple home runs and things like that, because I don't want his ceiling to be limited here. And, it wasn't good offensively when he was up. And I really think, and this is going to sound crazy because of, how good the Cubs have been offensively, but, when the Cubs do come down to a little bit of a colder stretch, we have not even seen 20% of what Matt Shaw could be offensively. And if he really figures it out down there and comes up, you're going to see a different baseball player. You're going to see his speed on display. And, obviously he's shown to be pretty competent over there at third. So I would my take would be glad that he's getting going. That's a very good sign. That 424 on base number, I mean, that's huge. Just want to see a little bit more slug, a little bit more pop. Right now, the Cubs have the luxury of they don't have to rush him back. It's not it has been a total disaster at third, but as long as the guys are making the plays defensively, and PCA and Tucker and Kelly and Dansby and Nico and Ian and Seiya and all these guys are crushing the ball, why rush him back right now? And I'm not saying give it a month, 2 months, but let's see where we're at in a couple of weeks. I want to see a little bit longer of a sustained success and a little bit more exit velocity, a little bit more pop from Matt Shaw. Before we get out of here, just a couple of things. If you're enjoying the postcasts with Joe George, who's doing a fantastic job with those, and you've been watching them after every game, Joe will be out, I believe, until Sunday. He's going out of town. So Matt and I will try and get on a little bit sooner during those times, except for obviously, we don't do shows on the weekends, and then Wednesday is a day game. So really, I'm talking about Tuesday. Maybe I'll pop in and do a little bonus something this weekend. We'll see where the plans go. But for Tuesday, we'll try and get on a little bit sooner since Joe won't be available. But Wednesday's a day game, so we'll do a normal night episode and post. Thursday's an off day, and then Friday and Saturday are weekend games. And then last but not least, I don't know anything that's going on, but I just want to give a shout out to Boog. I know I'm hard on him and Marquise sometimes, but I've always said I think Boog's a terrific guy and a terrific national broadcaster. He's been out for quite a while now, and I know they've said he's under the weather, so I just want to give him my best wishes, and I want to see him hopefully back in the booth tomorrow. But overall, a really, really good win for the Cubs. We'll see. We find out more about Shota tomorrow. We can get more specific with how long he's going to be out. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. You give us 30 minutes. We'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube. Please smash the like button for the algorithm and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. I'm Sam Olber, and this is Locked On Cubs.